Hey everyone, I am Demarco Majors, and you are listening to Conversations with Tona Brown.
Hello and welcome everyone to Conversations with Tona Brown. I am your host, Tona Brown, and I am with the fabulous actor, ex-basketball player, Devo, Demarco Majors. And I'm so happy to have Demarco because today is his birthday. So happy birthday, first of all. And you were on the show before. And so I just felt that now that we're in a different sort of iteration of
Right.
Conversations with Tona Brown, it just didn't make sense to do this without not having one of my quote unquote OGs on the show who were there for me when I first came up with the concept off of a recommendation of a friend. And what I remember the most that you said was, when Tona Brown calls, you show up. And I was just like, wow, that's really awesome. So
Yes, you
thank
do.
you so much. Thank you so much for joining me on Conversations with Tona Brown. And just tell us, what is new with you? What has been going on since
Oh,
the last
wow.
time we talked?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me back. You know, it's always a privilege to be on and have a conversation with you and to get real and to be just have some excitement and conversation. What's new with me is I brought my strategic life coaching practice back, working for a fitness studio that allows me to be me. Um, when I was hired, they said, I get to do meditation practices and I get to talk to people on a very loving level. Whereas before, I was working for big box gyms and it was sell, sell, sell. But now it's really heartfelt and love and light and really getting to meet people where they are. And I've had some really great stories with some people who didn't believe that they could lose the weight. They didn't believe in themselves. And seeing them transform and telling them, don't just take a hit class. Come on these days because this day works best for you. This day is working for you. We're gonna measure your weight on this day. Don't be afraid of the scale. The scale is your friend because that's your GPS. And a lot of people get so afraid thinking that if I get on the scale, it's gonna tell me, where I'm at. Exactly. Exactly. You want to know where you're at so you can enjoy where you are on the way to where you're going. And that's what's been news for me. So, and also, I'm allowing myself to love again. So it's been, and when I say love again, I'm loving myself in such a different centered way because when you come from addiction, when you come from fear of your status, within people, when you come from overcoming that fear, you go into a new space with yourself, and that requires new love. You can't go into a new space with old love. So you have to let love go too, just like you let people go. You have to let love
Hmm.
go too and grasp new love. And how do you love yourself now? So I'm loving myself differently and allowing myself to be
Oh,
loved differently.
Oh my goodness, that is so amazing. And that's why I wanted you on the show because I remember last time we were talking about, people and things that are in low vibration and high vibration and all that kind of stuff. And it all starts from within. And if you don't love yourself, my buddy, Troy Kennedy, his mother always says that you have to like, love, and respect yourself first. And that is so beautiful. And to get there and in our midlife, golden age, wherever you want to
Right.
say, where you finally love yourself. You're not worried about what people have to say about it, all of those things. And for you to be a public figure and an entrepreneur and all that. So first of all, tell us a little bit about your journey, because I feel that you have one of the most impactful stories that I've ever had the pleasure of sharing with the world. And now that we have a global platform, I want you to
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
tell people who don't know who DeMarco Majors is and the things that you've gone through in your life. Feel free to express, exactly who you are and where you're going.
Well, let me first say, who I am is I'm a man that has gone because when you go within, you never go without. And I've learned in my life that going from, being a professional athlete and being one of the very first pro athletes to talk about being openly gay in pro sports. and coming out in pro sports, and then also talking about the HIV aspect of pro sports. We had Magic Johnson who said what was going on, but we didn't get to have conversations with him on all levels, especially in the LGBTQI community. And
Right.
for me, I've been available and open into having these conversations to where you go from that stigma to addiction stigma because, I've been a part of, being drugged, being raped, and being able to have those conversations without malice, without fear. I'm not saying that I haven't always not had fear
Right.
because it was very fearful to talk about certain things because some people only know parts of your story and they don't know how your story manipulated you to stay in the story. And there's part of my time in my life where I lived in the story, but I lived such a public life that I couldn't break free of the story because I was always, talking about it. And so going from that to this new space of entrepreneurship, not just entrepreneurship, Black entrepreneurship. That's a whole different category
It
of
really
understanding.
is. It really is. Oh my goodness. I mean, you learn so much. We all learn so much from that. When you are a Black entrepreneur and you're dealing with our people and you're trying to start a business and you're looking for support, there are
Right.
so many things that you learn along the way. What are some of those things that you learn?
Well, one of the things that I learned is that we don't support our own as much as we would like to.
That
Let
part.
me say that and pause. Let me say that and pause.
Look, like I say, rewind. Exactly. Say that again so that people can hear that because it's so true.
We don't support our own the way we think we support each other. We think if we just like, subscribe, and or just like a post that is supporting me. You know what? I'm in the position to where I'm helping people grasp a better understanding of who they are on the way to where they're going because a lot of us we think that because we have an idea, we think an idea is a goal. An
Right.
idea is not a goal. And how do you actually transform a goal into uh, an obtainable job? Like how do I go, okay, just I want to start a podcast. Well, one of the very first things that we have to do is you have to create the goal, create a plan to the goal, not create a plan to the goal. Then you take action items from the plan, create deadlines to the action items, and then create a strategy on how
That's
you're
right.
going to accomplish it. And it takes somebody teaching you how to do that because our mind manipulates us and puts us in such a different place. So one of the very first things was I learned that we didn't support our own that way. Then I also learned that funding, is for everyone else and not, sometimes, no matter how dark skinned or how light skinned you are, you're still black and brown and funding
Tell
is
it.
not
Say
there.
it again. See, that's why I had to bring the brother back on because he always drops these little gems as if they ain't nothing. Say that again. That's it.
You
That's
know,
it.
funding is not there for us, and we have to create the spaces in the conversation. We can't go out and just be funding's not there for us. No. Why isn't funding not there for us? Let's go to the banks. Let's go to the credit unions. Let's go to the people so that we can have conversations so that we can create the format of what funding looks like for us. So when we do that, now we can start, petitioning for because there's tons of grants and stuff out there that we can win, that we can get to start our businesses, but we know nothing about them. So how do we get these resources? How do we get this information? And you know what? So one of the very first things that I learned from my cousin who kind of raised me, I'm in her house right now, is she's a social worker. I learned grants and different things from her because of how she takes care of people. My taking care of people came from her because she's always taken care of me ever since I was little. So, and that's kind of what I'm learning. And and nothing that I'm saying is negative. It's fact.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And let's go into that too, because I feel we're in an age where truth is subjective. We're seeing it in our politics. We're seeing it everywhere where when you just state the truth, it's a problem.
Well,
And so I really appreciate that.
We have to remember the truth is offensive to somebody who's sucked into failure. If you live a scarcity mindset, the truth sounds very hurtful. And it's not and you can't use truth as a device to be hurtful. You have to use truth as it is. This is the truth. Hey, those of us who are life coaches who are black, we get 15% less clients than our white counterparts. That's a
Really?
written fact. That's just a fact. However, our people are just now starting to know that therapy's okay. I, excuse me, I went into this with the firm belief that I wanted to be a representation for our people so that we can see I may not be the best person for you, but let me send you to a colleague because we need to see people like us because they understand the struggle, they understand the survival mechanisms, they understand the scarcity mindset. So, it's really important for us to see ourselves in these spaces and create more for ourselves, you know.
Absolutely.
And I'm not
Absolutely.
saying segregation. I'm saying, but okay, I'll be very honest. Segregation did hurt us because
Yeah.
we had more opportunities in black communities when things were just one way and not the other. I'm not saying that to go back to that. What I'm saying is we have to go and get what we used to do, create. We have, different places for our black and brown doctors. We have to have different places for our nurses. We have to create within our communities these safe spaces again, like we once had.
Absolutely, because what is the alternative? The alternative is that we have to keep going to other people to get resources, and then we're shocked and appalled when they don't treat us right, or when
Exactly.
those, you know what I mean? Like, this conversation is so wonderful because one of my good friends, he and I have that conversation all the time about the way things were compared to the way things are now, and so I'm so glad that you were able to state that, and tell people, about some of the challenges. And the thing too is that you've worked so hard in your career and
Right.
in your life to go from a very tragic situation that happened to you early in life
Yeah.
and to win. You're winning, you're shining, you're doing your own thing. And then I think for a lot of us, we get to a certain place where we want to share that wealth with everyone, even if it's just advice, and say, hey, you can do this too, just to be either shot down or not to be supported properly. How does one support properly? Let's start
Well,
there.
the first things first is to know that one of the very first things that you have to do as a people first, before we get to support, is as a people, early in your morning, go to your mirror and say, I love you 10 times. Because when you reinforce love within yourself, then you'll know how loving support looks like for somebody else. When you love yourself, you are lovingly support me and you'll pass on the energy of love.
That part.
See, I don't need you just to support me. I need you to pass on the energy of support. See, when you give me that energy, then I can take the energy from there and I can exponentiate it. I can expand it. It can expand within me. God loves me. God
That's
loves
right.
you. So now you've passed on something to me that is more of a foundation. When we have that foundation, now you can go, okay, so how can I support you? You know what you can do? You can not just like and subscribe, you can also share my post. It doesn't cost anything to share my post. It doesn't cost you any. You know what? The only thing that it costs you is time. 3 seconds out of your day to repost something that I say that touches you. If it touches you, allow it to touch somebody else.
That part.
Because
That
all I'm
part.
looking for is the exchange of energy that will fuel me even more. Because guess what? After those 10 I love yous to myself, you know what? The world might beat me up 6 times. And when I finally get back home, I might only have 4 I love you left, but I still got them.
That's right.
I still got them. So that's what we can do in support. Not only that, when you see your friend hurting, you know that a strategic life coach. So I work in trauma healing. I work with relationships. I work with wellness and nutrition. When you see somebody in your community, because you can't tell me, well, I don't know how to support you when you have 7 obese friends. You know that I work in wellness and nutrition.
Exactly.
Come on now. Let's tell the truth. You can't, don't tell me, well, God says this and I'm going to go to church. Well, in the church, obesity is run rampant. So you can't tell me that somebody in your church couldn't use my services to help them regain the course of their life back, because sloth is one of the 7 deadly sins. Don't just say being gay and trans is, is against God when you in sloth and when you in sloth and laziness and all that stuff, which is one of the biggest deadly sins.
You better preach.
So so let's get back to the communication of truth
Right.
without me. I'm not here to harm you, but I'm just laying out just a little bit of truth. So when we do look at our friends and go, hey, you know what? I heard this life coach on there, and I think that why don't you go to his Instagram page, see if something that he says sticks with you, because I believe that it will help you. I'm on my own journey, and we got to stop this one thing where we're on a journey and then we turn around and try to help somebody else and throw ourselves off of our own journey. How about let's stop saying goals and start saying goal. I have a goal that I want to meet. Let me meet that goal. Let me master that goal. And then why don't I share some information with you because I'm in a different room now. I can share the information from the last room that I was in, and you can take that information and go to somebody, go seek professional help. Go to
That's
a
deep.
professional.
And and it's such a simple concept that we miss. I think I don't want to make excuses for it because I'm not that way. I think one of the things that perplexes people with when they see my pages and everything, I am constantly sharing things of other people because every day I want to do something that moves my community forward. I want to show my support of people that normally don't get the support that they deserve. And if all I have to do is just share whatever it is that you're doing, or donate a little money, or do something that helps you to get there, Tona Brown is going to do it. And I might not have a lot to do, but that's not what matters. And I think that's what I think really keeps us paralyzed, is that we think that we have to do a grand gesture. Talk about that a little
Well,
bit.
that's not our fault. That's not our fault. That is a generational pattern that's been passed down since slavery. See, we had to do grand gestures in order to be noticed as good.
Mm.
We had to make grand gestures in order to not be beat. We had to make grand gestures in front of the slave master in order to get a second helping of food. So
Mm-hmm.
that's passed down. That's a generational pain. We think that because then from there, once we were freed slaves, next thing you had was we had to wear suits and ties and all these things in society so that we're not seen as the bad person. So grand gestures is deeply embedded into the fabric of who we are. So we think that we have to do that, and that's not who we are. We don't realize the one thing that I like to live by is never despise small beginnings.
Mm.
Do
Wow.
something so small that when somebody sees that little gesture, like, you know what? When Tona told me, when I seen that Tona was doing Tona conversations with Tona, and I got a call, my first thing was, how can I support? It wasn't, well, you need to have me on there because I got something to say. It's not about what I have to say. It's how can I support you? Oh, you want me to be on? Okay, when Tona calls, you better answer that call, because when I look at what you've done, when I get to look at your body of work, I am someone who's fortunate enough to have been a part of seeing your body of work. There's a lot of people who know your name. They know your accolades. They don't know your body of work. They don't know how you got there. They think a body of work is your accolades. That's not the truth. I heard about the struggles. I knew what it took. I heard about what it took for you to get to Carnegie Hall, what that road looked like, to get people to invest into believing, not investing the money, but investing, believing in you enough to get you in front of that crowd. So yes, I'm going to answer that call. But that's one of the things that we see as as a people is that you don't have to do a grand gesture. You don't have to be known for if you were playing your instrument right now and I clapped, that's a gesture because you know what? That clap is going to make you even play even harder. It's going to make you go even deeper. And it's just those little small things that add up. Hey, why do you think we have pennies? Because they add up to dollars.
Woo! See, there you go preaching again. Exactly. And we see it even in politics. What do they tell you? Like, we're trying to get Kamala Harris in office.
Yeah.
They don't tell you that you have to give $2,000 or $100. They go down and say, hey, can you give $5? Can you do $20? Something that you would spend just going out for lunch
It's a
is
cocktail.
all that it takes.
It's a cocktail. Have one less cocktail tonight. But you know what?
Right.
That's the
And
truth.
that is so true. So true.
One of the really cool things about even it's just we I've never experienced this. We've had an Olympic year in an election year during a time where America came together, and then we get Kamala Harris. Now, guess what? I'm going to be very honest. She's not the only person that you can vote for. Don't vote just because of one thing. Vote for who's going to be best in office. We deserve as Americans for who's going to be best in office. And I'm not someone who tells people who I'm voting for and all that stuff because I'm still old school. When I go to the ballot box, I go individually.
Okay.
That's I know. I mean, you could probably know who I'm voting for, but it's not nobody's business who I'm voting for. We can talk politics, but who it comes down to in the end, because this is not the only thing that's up right now. Our morals, our values, our country is up for grabs right now, and people are watching
Absolutely.
us. So you also have to look at there's more Black entrepreneurs than there ever has been right now. So there are programs that are in Project 2025 that would take some of the funding away from us to be able to do and live how we want to live. Pay attention to everything. Don't just read sound bites. Read the whole project. It's 956 pages. Read it.
Yeah.
If you can study the Bible and read the Bible, read this Project 2025 because you never know what's going to be coming up and be taken away from you because they
And,
come
and
up for
if you think
everything.
And if you think about it, that's their Bible.
Right.
Let's keep it real.
It
It's
really is.
we're actually calling it a manifesto for a reason. We're not trying to be more, we're just telling the truth because this is their Bible. And if you think about it from the fact that it's white national Christian, when you think about it, they really do believe these things, you guys. Like, this is no joke. They feel that everybody else is evil and is causing problems and all of these type of things. So when you read it, and as I have, my friends have, and I make sure I watch different things that when different analysts analyze it, you're like, oh, this is why they feel so strongly about this. They've been planning this for so long. So it's so important for us, especially as Black, LGBTQ people, IA people, why it's important for you to take the time to read this, to pay attention to what's in it, and all of the regression, like everything that they're trying to pull back that we have been fighting so hard to push forward. They really have a detailed plan to pull us back.
You know what? Can I share a story with you?
Sure.
I was at a Pride event, and there were Christians, what they call themselves Christians. I'm not going to go into the details of that because I have my own views on, you know, Jesus said, baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, so they will be a disciple. He didn't say Christian.
That part.
So you're calling your Christian came from Christians. They were making fun of them. So Christian is a derogatory term, calling them Christians because they were making fun of them. But let me put a pause
See,
into that
see,
one.
there you go again.
Let me put a pin in that one. So these people, they were standing out there, and then God hates fags and all their signs and all this other stuff. And I went up to a woman, and she was doing the most screaming. Her and this guy was doing the most screaming. And I said, do you know the book that you're holding? I know my God. Okay, you know your God, but do you know the book that you're holding? And she was just like, she just looked at me and she gave this horrible look, just horrible look. And I said, do you know that in the word that it says that if you turn away one of my children, it is better for you to tie a millstone around your neck and to throw yourself into the sea and kill yourself
Mm.
for turning away one of my children. I said, do you believe that all of us are children of God? And then the next thing I said is that you do know that it says in Galatians that if you commit one sin, you're guilty of them all. Every person here that you haven't turned to love, you've turned away from God. Everything that is turned to love goes towards God. You've turned us all away from love because you said God
Mm.
hates fags. You're saying that God hates his creation, which means that that is fallible, that he made a mistake. You're saying that God made a mistake. So welcome to homosexuality. Because if you're guilty of one sin, you're guilty of them all.
All. Ooh, she wasn't ready for that.
No, they weren't ready.
Oh, they ain't ready for that. First of all, a lot of them that I've met over the years and had similar conversations with are just like most people. They're just following what someone else or their families or whatever are saying. There is not a really deep introspective sort of analysis of exactly what they're saying. And then you have people who are just angry. They're just
Yeah,
angry. But again, this is why what you do is so important. This is why I want to support what you do and why we need to be supporting what you do. Because when you like, love, and respect yourself, as my friend Troy's mom always says, then you don't have time nor the energy to judge anyone. And when I say that, I mean it. Those who have read my book, my memoir, know that I came from a mother who was a youth evangelist who had to try to figure out her child, decided that the love for her child and her children, like I'm the only one, but she wanted to figure this out. Like, it's similar to what we see a lot of people going through where they're just like, well, what is really the big deal about this, either homosexuality or trans youth, all the horrible things that they are saying. We have a former president who just said that your child can go to school and then in a couple of days come back with gender affirming surgery. Like,
it's
it
such
just
a
makes
come on now. Like you've got to, like you. First of all, let's get people, let's get people out your house. You're telling people how to deal with their child when we have children having children and that being okay and that child becoming that child being something that the parents have no education on. Who in the world would have thought that, okay, my child says strongly, I feel I'm born in the wrong body. But you're listening to the politics of somebody, well, they're going to go to school and come back a whole different. Hold on. First of all, why don't y'all take a page from Dwayne Wade? Take a page from Dwayne Wade. Learn from your child because the child knows what they're going through. Listen to your child. The very first thing that you should do is first love your child and know that that is your child. You gave birth to that child. That child didn't give birth to you. God gave that child to you. God didn't give, God didn't make no mistake when he gave that child to you. There is something there that you were supposed to learn because there's an influence that you have. Dwayne Wade has an influence and he took
I
that
love what he's
platform.
doing.
Yeah. And you know what? But let me go back and say this, we as a people are so divided on issues that have nothing to do with our own household.
Oh, that part.
Like, how are we going to be divided? Like, when I leave, one of the things, the very first thing, my very first Asian friend, her grandmother taught me this. She said, when you are in the house, you are Marco. But when you leave the house, you are black. She said, I leave the house, I'm Asian. They don't see who you are. So you don't get to know the deeply rooted things that are actually going on in my home and make a decision on it. Because if we really think about it, in the 80s, who's the one who took prayer out of the schools? Who took the Pledge of Allegiance out of schools? It wasn't black folks.
Exactly. Great point. Great point.
It wasn't us. It was y'all. Now y'all trying to put all these things back because y'all you see that what you created was failure. You said you shouldn't spank your children. You put them in timeout. Now your kids is going up and shooting up schools. Now you want to put
Oh
God back in,
God.
like now y'all want to put God back into school. First of all, you have to have a relationship with the divine.
That's right.
See, if you're telling me that you're a Christian, have you read the Bible or have you studied the Bible in Latin so that you can understand the root of the definition of the words that you're reading? No,
And Armenic.
you're reading definitions that were created by people who were the majority people on this in this continent. They created those words. Who do you think they created them by if it was white supremacy? Who do you think owned the publishing companies who could publish anything and put them into the Bible? Who do you think did that? Okay,
I
so
mean,
you're not really studying the
point in
Bible.
case, the King James version. Like it just it some of those things just kind of blow my mind that people just kind of gloss over. And it's like if you think about a ruler who is putting things together, they're doing it for a reason. You see that we've all studied and seen that there are books that are missing. There's a lot of stuff that's going on because of course they wanted to rule. That was the whole point in the King James version,
And
y'all.
he had a
Oh, now,
lover.
and he did
He had a
exactly.
lover.
That's why I was very go to. Hello, and and then societies as a whole were far more open than we are even today in 2024. I'm gonna tell you, I've done certain experiments, and you guys are gonna be a part of my sexuality series that we are doing on Conversations with Tona Brown, right? And so I'm bringing different guests back on, and hopefully I can get you to come on as well as a life coach. And we're really helping people with their issues with who they are. You know what I'm saying? We're not telling you who you are, but when you're coming to me and you're saying you're having issues with why you're attracted to men or women or both or whatever it is, what we have learned is that it's time for us to break some of this down, to let go all of this stress and drama and trauma and all this stuff. But we got to do the work, and it has to start from somewhere. And I'm very blessed that I have friends who have done that kind of work. We're all very patient with people, and we're allowing you all to go through this journey with us with this podcast. So that, and the great thing about podcasting, because I never was really, I never really paid attention to podcasting at all. But after I started hearing from my producer, who's a lovely person, her and her husband kept saying, you should take what you're doing and make into a podcast. It will be out there in perpetuity. So what my friend Demarco Majors is saying to you will be known for a long time. So with that, there's responsibility that comes with that, and making sure that I bring you all people that have their own unique perspective. We're not all going to agree on everything all the time,
Absolutely.
but these are all educated people. These are people who have been through some things. And for you to have gone through the things that you've gone through, and for you to still have such a positive outlook on life, that's something that most people who haven't gone through a tenth of the things that you or myself have gone through, they can't say themselves. So you've had to
Yeah.
have done some work.
It's the shadow. You know, Tona, let me share with your community. One of the very first things that you have to do when you want to do the work is you have to learn how to heal your vocabulary. See, we all learned certain words that we used during times of trauma, during times of, see, you don't even know, you may not even realize that what you're going through probably isn't yours. It probably is passed down from generation. It's not a generational curse. It's a generational pattern.
Hmm.
And that pattern and you are the one. That's why I believe that I'm a generational pattern breaker.
Same
because
here. I believe the same
this was
thing.
put on my plate. I just think I think differently than a lot of different people, and not that that makes me better. It doesn't make me better. It makes it life harder.
That's right.
It made life harder, and I had to go through things that other people didn't have to go through because I was going to be the one to was going to think differently in the situation. So I had to start reading books, and then going from those reading those books, I started deciphering the vocabulary in those books because I could say I love you to you. You may feel something much different than I love you. You may feel hurt. You may feel shame when I say I love you. And that's why some people say, I just don't feel it when you tell me I love you. I just don't feel that you love me because you haven't healed your vocabulary. So right before you start doing that shadow work, start healing your vocabulary, go into that shadow work, be willing to touch areas in your life that you of conversations you are afraid to have. You know those things that sit in the back of your head that you go, "Oh, I don't want to." You know what? Let me not manifest that. Let me not manifest that because we're in such
Yeah.
a conversation these days about manifesting everything. You know what? So I would say to some people, right before you start wanting to dive in to do this spiritual work, start with your vocabulary because the way that you speak to yourself when no one's around, those fleeting thoughts that you have, that's because that is a vocabulary that the enemy speaks to you in order to keep you docile so that you don't use your gift. So you know what? A lot of times the enemy will allow you to live in your talent. See, you think your talent is everything, but God resides in your gift.
That's it. That's it.
And the enemy will hide your gift from you because he knows what great things God will do in your life when he puts you into your gift. See, I thought that I had this talent in basketball, but my gift was in talking to people.
Right.
And I was
Right.
so afraid and so shy that I kept playing basketball until I got to the community. And then I started, speaking regularly to people, and people were like, they couldn't have conversations with me. And I thought, well, nobody likes listening to me. No, I was speaking to someone's demons, and the demons were so in such control that they couldn't hear me. But they've come to me later in life and they said, what, you were right. I'm not looking to be right. I'm not always right and I'm not always wrong. But you know what I am? I'm always DeMarco.
That part. That part. And for people who don't like or who are atheists or people who are stuck on terminology and can't get the bigger picture, everything that DeMarco is saying and that I'm saying, you can change the language. It is still the same. It can be any religion. You don't have to use God. You could do Mother Earth. You could say the divine. You could say the universe.
Absolutely.
Everything that we're speaking. And that's one of the things that I really am very, very blessed to have had an aunt who actually made me read a little bit of everything. And I realized all the similarities instead of focusing on all the differences. We're all the same, y'all. And even down to this LGBTQIA stuff, all these labels and stuff, they're really there to pacify people and their bigotry and their whatever. But the reality is all of us are pretty much the same. And what I will say too, when it comes down to sexuality and all those things, that's why it's important that we do listen to the transgender people and the trans youth, because we had to do so much to figure out what was going on. And that has nothing to do with sex. Gender and sex are different. So when we are analyzing things and I'm talking to my friends who husband and wife and they're having an issue, I can see things on a number of perspectives because of my life experiences. Would I have wished this on myself if I knew what I know now? I wouldn't change anything. But at the same time, it was a harder road for me. I had to figure out what it is that was the center of myself. And in every iteration of myself, which is what I call my transition, every iteration of myself, I started dealing with men. right? Which is my preference. Everyone has their own. And I noticed that throughout it all my best friends, that I talk to, I'm like, well, there's really not any difference. We all want love. We all want companionship. We all want to be heard. We all want to be respected. And that doesn't matter no matter how that person identifies. Does that make sense?
It
You know what
makes
I'm
a lot of
saying?
sense to me. Even me being me, I've had to go through so many different transitions myself. Because, when I was a little, I have two younger sisters, and when I was younger, only the girls got attention. I've had to sit here and, learn, as a boy, because I thought you had to be a girl in order to get attention. So I played with Barbie dolls and I did this but you know what? I played with Barbie dolls. I played with Muscle Men. I played with Transformers. I made them all play basketball because that was my thing. All
That
of
was made you macho.
all of my toys they played basketball because my dad played basketball. So I was creating stories and I was creating these different things. And so when you're a little child creating these different stories, you get to see things from different perspectives, from different angles. So when people talk to me, you're not just talking to somebody who looks at it from a black male perspective. I'm a black man who happens to be gay. See, I happen to be these things. I happen to be this. I happen to be that. I happen to have done this. I happen to have done these things because that was what was that was put on my plate. Some of us are obese mentally. We don't realize that we add so much food to our plate. God already gave us the four food groups of nutrients that was already supposed to be on our plate. Those are the things that you were supposed to eat from because you needed that nutrients for the brain power and the know-how so that you wouldn't become cloudy. But we want to add starches. We want to add sugars. We want to add these different things and spice up our life because we think that that's what you're supposed to do. That's why we had a hard time with who we are. The reason why we've gotten to a place where our mental wellness is where it's at right now, which is a place of acceptance. That's why I said this has been the year of acceptance. It's because I don't add to my plate no more. We wake up in the morning. God has a plate for us to eat from. There's fruits, there's vegetables, there's proteins, there's vitamins on our plate. The nutrients that are supposed to allow us to think and be and present the way that we are. And you know what? I don't, I'm not ungrateful anymore. I don't go, God, I want more of this. God, I need more of that. I say, thank you, God. This is all I need.
So you stay in that place of gratitude. That's big because that's a very, very high vibration. Look, I wish we had so much more time. We're going to have you come back on again because you shared so much with all of us and you always do, which is why I continue to support Demarco Majors. Demarco, thank you for coming on Conversations
Thank
with
you for
Tona
having
Brown.
me.
It is always a pleasure to speak with someone who has done the work. And for all my personal friends, they know I'm constantly talking about doing the work. And if you don't know what that is, contact DeMarco Majors. Let him show you how to do the work so that you can come to a place in your life where it's not that we think that we're perfect and all knowing, but we're also very comfortable in our own skin. And that's what you all hear. It's not that we think that we're better than you. We're just comfortable and we're constantly learning. So I really want to hear more from you. I think that you are really going to bless my audience. So how can we help you? Where can we find you on social media?
Alrighty. Well, one of the first things I want to say is thank you for everything you just said. And I just want to share with the people one thing. You don't have to be known by the world. Just mean the world to the people that you're around.
Wow. I like that.
And you can find me at DeMarco Majors on Facebook and Instagram. I do answer my messages. I do have to sift through and comb through some things because, people shooting at shots and all that stuff. But thank you so much for creating a platform where we can come and just have a taste of truth and have a taste of love and have a taste of honesty and not be judged that I may think different than you. I may vote different than you. I may feel different than you. But guess what? I can still respect because I can get something out of it. So thank you so much for creating the space for us.
Absolutely. That's what Conversation with Tona Brown is all about. We're all about learning from each other and sending out positive energy to the world. And there's many ways of doing it, but I really enjoy talking to people that are different. I mean, people who live far away, people that have different perspectives on life, because I know it's going to help me to grow. It's going to help me to understand my life and other people's lives differently. And I'm pretty much an introvert. So it's great to have these conversations because I get to connect with all of you. Thank you so much, Demarco Majors. This is Conversations with Tona Brown. I'm here with Demarco Majors, and we just had a phenomenal conversation. You can find us anywhere where you can find podcasts. You can also just ask Alexa to play Conversations with Tona Brown podcast now. So isn't that awesome? So have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye.
See you later.